Hi, this is Len Edgerly. Welcome to episode 699 of the Kindle Chronicles podcast. I am recording in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And for this episode of the podcast, which is the last one before we reach episode 700, about which I'll have more to say in a moment, I'm going to divide this episode into 4 chapters. The first is going to be a review of the new basic Kindle by Darlene, my wife. Second chapter will be an update on damage done to our home on Sanibel Island by Hurricane Ian, because we just got back from our first chance to look at the house in person. Chapter 3, an unboxing audio. You may have seen unboxing videos before, including some that I've done of various products. But when the review copy of the new basic Kindle arrived, I was in the Tesla. Darlene was at a pickleball lesson, and so I recorded my first impressions of the new basic Kindle. Last, I'll give you a preview of TKC 700, which I plan to record this week in Seattle. So let's get started with Chapter 1, Darlene's review of the new Kindle. Those of you who have been listening to the Kindle Chronicles for a while, maybe all 14 years of the show, know that Darlene has a slightly different take on the technology than I do. I tend to be pretty excited about all the things that the new Kindles can do. She just reads books on it, which is, and she reads probably 5 times more books on her Kindle than I read on mine. But she's a great person to just try out a new product on, because she tells it like it is. She doesn't sugarcoat it, and I think a lot of you appreciate her honesty and candor when she talks about these new devices. So what I showed her, this was on, October 30th, I laid out the 3 Kindles that now constitute the lineup for Kindles, starting with the new Kindle 11, that's the basic Kindle for $100, and then the Paperwhite, and then the Oasis, which is what she has been using. Now, you're probably aware the Kindle 11 was released for pre-order on September 13th. It began shipping October 12th. That was 4 days after I received my review copy. It has a 6-inch screen measured on the diagonal. It weighs 5.56 ounces. And in talking with Darlene, we were comparing the 3 Kindles with the cases that we have on them. So you'll hear slightly different weights, because we're doing sort of, what is it really like in using the case? And I always have a case on my Kindle. I think it's just more pleasant that way. But the total weights with the cases turn out to be 8 and 7/8 ounces for the basic Kindle, 11 and 7/8 ounces for the Paperwhite, and 12 ounces for the Oasis. As I said, we had them. They were lined up on the hassock here in my lab in Cambridge, and this is the conversation that I had with Darlene. You have been using the Oasis, right?
Right.
What do you like about it?
I like the buttons. I like you can touch the screen and touch the buttons.
Uh-huh. And how do you feel about the weight?
Well, after touching these other ones, my case is really heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know why we have such a heavy case.
You might be able to get a lighter. This one has a feature which I don't think you use much, but you can set it like that to read at a table. Do you ever use that?
Never knew it was there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what did we find out? The Oasis with your case weighs 12 ounces. The Paperwhite, which doesn't have buttons, but it has a nice screen, and it's a bigger screen. I think that I wonder if it's as big as.
Yep.
No, the Oasis has the biggest reading screen.
Yeah.
So they're actually
not by much.
No, not by much.
Yeah.
So one thing that you've got now is 3 different readable areas of screen. Oasis the biggest, Paperwhite smaller, and now this new basic Kindle. And what do you think of this?
I love it. I love it. I love the size of it. I always have gone for small.
Yeah.
My last Oasis, I kept it forever because it was so small.
Right.
And they quit making it. I haven't used this, but I'm worried about what happens to me is sometimes I'm touching the screen, and then all of a sudden I'm touching another part of the screen by mistake and it goes back, or it goes to an end of a chapter, or it does something weird on me, which is why I kind of like the buttons.
Right.
But I love the size of this. I mean, you can throw this in a small purse. You can throw this in a pocket and have it with you. And that is fantastic.
One of the significant differences, and I don't know if it makes a difference, but you see on the Paperwhite, and I think the Oasis has the same thing, you can set it so that it's like a sepia.
Right.
This warm glow to it.
Can I do it on this?
No, you can't do it on that.
Oh, that's too bad.
But do you use that?
I do. I keep it on all the time because I mostly read at night in bed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's way easier on my eyes.
Now, you can dial this back so it's not as bright. It doesn't have an auto setting, so you have to manually dial it back a little at night. But it's a lot lighter than the Paperwhite. If you hold the two of them together,
oh, yeah, it's so much lighter.
It's 3 ounces lighter. It's smaller.
Yeah, I know. It's really fabulous. I mean, the trick would be, well, but why would I say this? Because I have a hard time keeping hold of one device, let alone two.
Yeah.
The trick would be for me to keep the Oasis and then get one of these, these small ones, and have this with me in the daytime.
Right.
And then keep the other one by my bed.
Yeah.
Because that's, although it'd be really nice to hold this one in bed.
Yeah.
The small one is by far the most appealing. Why don't they do some of these other features on the small one?
I don't know. That would be a good update.
That'd be great.
You know, they could charge it. And I mean, maybe they would replace, I don't know. Some people might really like the bigger screen on the Paperwhite.
Sure.
But if they had sort of like a super basic Kindle that had the warm setting for the screen.
I know, even that would make a huge difference in it.
I think the quality, you know, the PPI and all the specs are pretty much the same. This Paperwhite probably has more light coming onto the screen like at night, but this is perfectly adequate.
Right.
And, you know, it's quite a bit
I would
cheaper.
say if you don't have an eye issue, I mean, I have an eye issue, so that it does really matter that it's easy on the eyes.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have that, I would just say the small one is so the way to go.
Yeah. And even with an eye issue, reading like now in the daytime, that's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're not really using the lights.
Yeah. No, I mean, you notice it, though. I mean, I have a little bit of a headache, and it's, you kind of, you know, or the other one. Oh, let me look at my other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this one's so much easier on my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really notice a difference on the eyes.
But do you have it on the warm setting there?
Yeah, see.
This is, so we're on the Oasis, so you could have it even warmer if you put it all the way over to here.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But I had it pretty far over anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't tell there's not so much of a difference between the warm setting and the other setting during the day.
No, but
At night, if this was nighttime, it would really make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably depends when you're reading it.
Yeah.
If you're reading at night, your eyes are sensitive. Also, I would think that warm setting will, you know, you're not supposed to read screens at night, but I would think that warm setting would be better.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big draws for it.
You don't want it to keep you awake. But this little one is just adorable. It's just so, I mean, it's so
And you could
great.
get a nice leather case for it. It'd be...
Yeah, who cares? I just want to be able to throw it in something, and then you never know when you want your Kindle with you.
I mean, would you, if you had that as your daytime Kindle, would it always be in the same purse, or would it be somewhere where it was always accessible to you and the other one's at the bedside?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And it'll sync up, so it'll, you know, always be the same
that's
book.
what I was thinking. It syncs up, so it would be easy. You wouldn't have to fight your way back to wherever you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. How much is this?
I think it's $99, and the Paperwhite's, I don't know, $150. I'll have to edit this out and do it. And then the Oasis is like $250.
Let's make this bigger print, because I use bigger print than you do. So, and then let's see how it looks
All
then.
right, so let's see.
So go from normal print to what?
Okay, we'll slide it up to, I've got it at, let's see, all settings we want, oops. Oh, I have to hit the A thing. It's been a while since I've done this. And font, and then size. Just pick which size. Is that about the one you want?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I probably rather go one more, but yeah. That's not.
So then,
Wait a minute, I didn't.
because it's a small screen, the bigger font, you have, fewer words.
Right, but that doesn't really bother me.
That's still going to be good.
Because it's not that hard to,
Yeah. And you've got a bigger tap area on this side. It's to go back. It's like a small margin on the left. So
and
it would switch. Yeah.
It does switch around when you flip it around.
Right. So
it's not flipping. You sure it flips? Maybe it doesn't flip.
Maybe it doesn't flip.
That would be something in terms of, but it's not bad to hold it one
and
the
there
other
isn't
way.
like
like the other one, you have to flip it.
Yeah, because it's got a wide side.
Right. Where this wouldn't matter. You wouldn't have to flip this. You just hold it like. Yeah, no, I think this little one's the way to go.
All right.
I mean, it just depends on what you.
Well, I think this is a review copy I get to keep, and I might have already ordered one, so you might inherit this.
Wow, that'd be nice.
Thanks from the Kindle Chronicles for your expert opinion.
There you go.
Yeah, and these are available for pre-order, but they're not shipping until sometime in November. So.
Oh, this one and this one?
No, this one's the same. I don't know if they're going to update the middle one, the Paperwhite, but this new basic one, which they released last month.
It's really sweet.
Yeah. So these are the three that are available now, and then the Scribe is like that remarkable one.
That's really big.
It's like 8 by 10.
Yeah.
You can read all your Kindle books on it, and you can do little annotations, like you could, write a note, but it's a different use. It's like if you want to really write on your thing.
Right.
That's not something that would appeal to you, probably.
No.
And,
Yeah.
All right, so you're not getting a Kindle Scribe. I'm getting a Kindle Scribe.
Oh, the Kindle Scribe. No, it's not something that I would want.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything that I would want to put on there in terms of like a Kindle book that I would need to write notes on and stuff like that. I just can't.
And it's not color. I mean, you're getting a better, if you want a big screen like that, you'd read on your iPad Kindle app and you'd see the color of the cover and different stuff and have a lot, but you don't do that anyway.
No, I just want to read.
Thank you.
Sure. Anytime.
I signed Darlene up at the last minute to do that recording, and I hadn't prepared all my specs, as you can tell when I was talking with her. So to review some of the things that were mentioned, the basic Kindle costs $99.99, so I call it $100. Paperwhite $140, and the Oasis $250. Those are with the ads. You pay slightly more if you don't want to see the ads on the screen. And then the three sizes are different. The basic Kindle is 6 inches on the diagonal, Paperwhite 6.8 inches, a little bit larger. You can see it if you lay one on top of the other, that the Paperwhite does have more reading area. And then the Oasis goes up to 7 inches on the diagonal. There's also a difference in the LED screens. These are the ways that the Kindle can be read in the dark, even if you don't have a light shining on it. The basic Kindle has 4 LEDs, the Paperwhite has 17, and the Oasis has 25. To tell you the truth, I can't really see the difference when I'm reading the basic Kindle at night, which I did a lot on this last trip that we took to Sanibel. I had no sense that it was in any way blurry or less good to read at night than the Paperwhite, which I also brought. But if you're looking at the specifications and wondering about the justification for the difference in price, that's something which you'll see on the difference in those 3 Kindles. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is coming up. We had a bumper. I have a little music here. I think I've mentioned our home in Sanibel, and anybody that's been following the news knows that Hurricane Ian, it was headed to Tampa after grazing Cuba. And then on September 28th, a day I'll remember for a long time, it happened to be a day I was getting a nasal surgery procedure at Massachusetts Eye and Ear. So as I was put under general anesthesia, I didn't really know how badly the hurricane was going to hit Sanibel Island. And then at the same time, there was going to be an announcement from Amazon. This is when they announced the Kindle Scribe. So as I was put under general anesthesia, there were a couple of things that I was very interested in that I was going to have to wait until I woke up in the recovery room to open. But on September 28th, we were watching all of the Weather Channel nonstop here in Cambridge, and the hurricane just sort of took a right turn to head. The eye of the storm landed slightly north of Sanibel, but it was such a big storm that there were probably winds of 150 miles an hour to 190 miles an hour on our part of Sanibel. And the other thing that caused so much damage was a storm surge. And this is where the wind just blows the ocean up over the land. And in the case of Sanibel, which has an average elevation of 3 feet, at our house, which is kind of at the interior of the island on a golf course, it looks as if the storm surge was between 5 and 10 feet. So if you were standing in our basement level or in the driveway, you would have been, I would have been up to my neck in water. And there was all kinds of damage that was caused because of that storm surge, including a lot of houses on the island just were destroyed, particularly houses along the Gulf Coast. And our neighbors had been looking out for us. One neighbor works for a contractor, and she was able to get them working very quickly on taking out drywall to head off the mold. But up until November 1st, when we had tickets to fly down there, we thought we were just going to be flying down there for the winter at that point. We hadn't seen it in person. So we got an Airbnb in Cape Coral, which is nearby. And the next morning on the 2nd, we drove over. I thought it might take 2 or 3 hours to get across the Sanibel Causeway. That was another miraculous part of the recovery, is that within about 3 weeks of the storm, which broke the causeway in 3 or 4 places, the Army Corps of Engineers and the Florida Department of Transportation and Lee County, it just seemed like every level of government was involved in getting the causeway up and running. So on November 2nd, we just drove across the causeway in our rental car, and there were no delays. There was a checkpoint where there were police, and we'd carefully arranged our purple hurricane pass hanging from the mirror of the rental car, and they just waved us through, so we didn't really even have to slow down. Once we got on the island, it's hard to describe the sense of devastation that we saw. Our house is pretty close to the end of the causeway, so to get to our house, we saw piles of debris in front of every single house that we passed, and the vegetation had just, it's as if you had dialed down a filter on Photoshop. It's such a brilliantly green island as we left it in May, and it's brown. It's just most of the trees, many have been destroyed and hauled off and trimmed, and that part of it was very difficult to see. When we got to our house, we had seen pictures, so we knew that the main part of the roof had blown off. What we didn't know at that point was that it had blown off and landed on the roof of our neighbors, Allison and David, and put a big hole in their roof, which otherwise would have been would have held during the storm, and it put a big hole right over their bedroom and caused some damage, which we felt badly about that. So where the roof had blown off, there was rain during the storm, of course, and then a few days later, before our neighbor on the other side was able to get a tarp on, a lot of rain came down through the main part of the house into the living room, dining room, kitchen area. And so there was immediately a concern about mold. I was shocked when I walked in and saw it was taken down to the studs in just about all of the house. I had no idea that there was that much damage, but I was also amazed that there was that much repair work that had already been started. So it was kind of good news, bad news. And then our bedroom, which is in a newer part of the house, that roof held. So, in fact, we were able Friday night to spend the night in the house, although it was pitch black, and we had to depend on the flashlights on our watches and iPhones. But we went to bed pretty early, slept well. There was a cool breeze coming in the windows, and it was very healing and encouraging to spend at least one night in the house. I think that we might be able to head on down there early December. There's no electricity yet. There's no air conditioning. Darlene heard today that the water is now potable. It hadn't been up until this point. So the progress that's being made on the services being as impressive as it is, we could probably live in that bedroom part of the house pretty quickly, and then we would just be down there to oversee the construction as it continues. The adjuster for our homeowners policy, the wind and rain policy, which not too many people were insuring houses when we bought ours last year. This is a guy named Donald, and he came in looking like Crocodile Dundee with big black boots and kind of an Australian hat and a very cool gizmo that would take pictures of everything. And he was very helpful. His job was there to just try to figure out what it was going to cost to get the house repaired, and he would be sending that on to the insurance company. And he spent quite a while there just going through it all very carefully. The neighbors, it was a neighborhood when we left, and we got to know our neighbors on both sides. Interesting people. There's a couple of doctors from London, 2 houses down. And so in the normal routine, you get to know the neighbors and you like them. But when something like this happens, all of a sudden, you're like in a lifeboat with your neighbors. These are people that you depend on, and you want to help out any way you can. And even something as simple as Allison and David, after we got there, we didn't have electricity. They did. They brought over a big pot of coffee for us, and it was great. And we went and get coffee for our friends from London. And if we get down there, I hope that we're going to be able to not only oversee what needs to be done on our house, but to work with other organizations that are helping throughout the island. The houses along the Gulf part of that's where the real it made you want to cry. The piles of debris when you drove down West Gulf Drive were 2 cars high. It just seemed endless. And the task of getting all those condo places back and running, and houses that had just been destroyed, it's something I've never experienced before. And I've never lived somewhere that had been through a disaster to where people were coming on the island and feeding us free barbecue meals. There were 2 places on the island, and we went, and most everybody there had a safety vest and a hard hat on, and there were a few of us residents there, and volunteers were scooping out the barbecue and the beans and corn and everything else. And again, it was that sense of just being supported by so many different people. Quite an experience, and we got back, Saturday, I think. Sunday we hopped in the car and drove up to Ocean Park, where Sophie had been well taken care of by our friends Pam and Marie and Gidget, their little dog. So played a little pickleball up there and came back. And here it is Monday, and I'll tell you what's going to be happening tomorrow when we get to Chapter 4. But first, Chapter 3 is an audio unboxing. It was fun to do, and I hope you enjoy it. I am sitting in the Tesla while Darlene is having a pickleball lesson here in Medford, Massachusetts. We found the courts, and they were having a lesson. I said, can we join? And they said, well, it's just for women. So I'm in the car with Sophie. Luckily, I brought the review unit of the new basic Kindle from Amazon, and this is an audio unboxing. I've just taken it out of the pleasing blue bag. Interesting. It says on the back of it, this device has not been authorized as required by the rules of the Federal Communications Commission. This device is not and may not be offered for sale or lease, or sold or lease until authorization is obtained. Okay. But Amazon sent me an email saying that I can keep it because of supply chain problems and kind of a shorter time for the reviewers to see it. So we can keep the device, and we can talk about it as soon as we want to, which is why I'm doing this. It's very small, it's very light, and it would easily fit in a pocket, a sports coat pocket or a purse or whatever. And let's turn it on and see what happens. Press the button at the bottom. Very bright, clear screen. You know, this is the latest and greatest e-ink screen. I can see this being a very pleasing device. Now, I love my Paperwhite, but I think the Paperwhite weighs more than this. And there's something about having the basic Kindle, which will it'll sell for what? I can't remember what it sells for, but this one's free, so it'll be nice for me. Let's go to English as our language next. Now, at some point, it's going to want some Wi-Fi connection, so we'll set up a hotspot with my iPhone. In fact, let's get that going here. It's a beautiful fall day here in Massachusetts. Sophie's sitting on the console next to me. Settings, personal hotspot. Okay, so they still have the boy reading the Kindle beneath a tree that looks like a tree in Texas. It's kind of androgynous. Might be a girl, but I think it's a boy. I think it's Jeff Bezos reading under a tree. And that's been the image for the Kindle for the past 14 years. The next review unit I'll be getting is the Kindle Scribe. Boy, that's going to be exciting. All right, hello. Welcome to your new Kindle, 11th generation. Now we are authenticating. It'll be fun. It'll say Len's 29th Kindle or something. And I will rename it. Hi. Welcome to your new Kindle, 11th generation. You are logged in and connected to Len's iPhone 14. Next. Sophie sleeping. Darlene is hitting volleys at the net. This is so good. Make this Kindle kid friendly? No, I don't think I need to do that. No thanks. And I believe we're set up. Where's my home page? There it is. Your library is currently empty. Introducing the Kindle experience. Quick access to settings. Tap or swipe down to controls. I get that. Home library and currently reading. Scroll left and right. New quick scrolling experience. Navigate by tapping, dragging, or holding the trackpad of the scroll bar. Oh, there's a scroll bar. Now that's funny. That's like the old original Kindle where you had to, you rolled a wheel to move the cursor. And this is almost like that. That's funny. That's probably on all the Kindles. That's probably the software update. Aha! From your library. Well, let's go to the book I'm reading. Okay, I'm going to open Crucial Conversations. That's another book that I've heard about. This is by Joseph Grenny. Crucial Conversations. Welcome to your book. Tap or swipe on the right side of the screen to turn to the next page. Tap or swipe on the left side to go back. Okay, this is all pretty similar stuff. And there is our book. Now I'm reading, it's noon, so there's plenty of light. All right, so brightness is set now at 18. What if I bump it up to 24? Yeah, that's better. It is just so thin and light. I tell you, I could imagine switching from the Paperwhite to this new basic Kindle. It's just about the book. It's just about the reading. And it's very cool. And I talked about it on the podcast. You know, here's Amazon continuing to invest in the Kindle line and make the basic entry-level Kindle just as good as they know how to make it. A lot of consistency between among the various versions, the Oasis, the Paperwhite, and the basic Kindle. Good stuff. So, that has been the opening audio of a new basic Kindle here from Medford, Massachusetts. Since that unboxing, I have done a lot of reading on the basic Kindle, and every once in a while I'll pick up the Paperwhite. That happened when we were in Florida. I prefer the basic Kindle. I think going forward, the Paperwhite's going to be retired somewhere. Maybe I'll give it to somebody. And I think that I'm really happy to pick up this smaller, lighter Kindle, especially at night. When I'm reading at night, it kind of disappears. My habit is to read a peaceful book just until my eyes start closing, and then I very quietly go to bed. And that nice, light little Kindle is very good for reading for the purpose of sleep. And it sounds like Darlene's going to want one too, and I imagine I'll be getting her one. Well, Christmas is coming up. That's a good idea. That maybe get her something for Christmas. Now, Chapter 4, last chapter of this episode. The Amazon PR department, a while back, now I've got so many things have happened, I'm a little foggy on exactly what happened. I think I might have been reaching out to see if Jeff Bezos could join me on the show for episode 700, and it turned out that he's not available on the schedule that would work. But the PR department followed up and asked if I wanted to come to Seattle and talk to Kevin again, Kevin Keith. And I'm pretty sure that this one will be about the scribe, so I'll have a chance to have hands-on with the scribe. And then there'll be something where I'm talking with, I believe it's the people that put together the AboutAmazon.com blog, where they generally interview employees that are doing interesting things, but I think maybe I'm going to be the subject of an interview or perhaps a video. They talked about an in-company TV channel that to talk about the podcast. So I don't know who I'll be talking to or exactly what kinds of questions they'll ask, but I'll just try to refresh myself so that when they ask questions about my podcast, I won't have to say, "Oh, I don't remember that. That was 10 years ago." But I'm really looking forward to that. And then there's going to be a new display. I think they have a Kindle wall that has an example of each of the Kindles through all of the generations. And we'll see. I'll have a very full day on Wednesday, perhaps some more events on Thursday morning, and then I'll fly back here. If it works out, I'd love to have the show up Thursday, but otherwise I'll put it up for Friday. And that's going to be a great opportunity. I've enjoyed, since I guess it's been about a year now since I decided to not put the show up every week, to put up a show when somebody's interesting to talk to. And in the process, Amazon has reached out with the opportunity to cover these new products and then, go to Seattle and do all that. So I really like the mix that I've got so far of maintaining the name, the Kindle Chronicles, something I've been doing for, I guess it'll be 14 years this coming summer. I lose track of the number of years. It's either 13 or 14. It's 700 shows. That's a lot. And I just like doing it. I love the interviews, and I like having a chance to get a quick early peek at some of the products and books that come out before they're published. It's like, what's not to like about this gig that I invented for myself? And I'm grateful to all of you who have been along on the ride, many of you right from the beginning. And I'm glad you'll be, I'll be bringing you with me on my flight to Seattle, and hope we have some fun out there that I can put together in a special show for TKC 700. This is Len Edgerly for the Kindle Chronicles. Thanks for listening.